The surgeons in the hospital operating theater are doing everything they can to save the patient. But despite their best efforts, a flat line appears on the cardiac monitor. After checking other signs, the doctors conclude that the patient is dead. Clinically dead. In other words, they cannot observe the kind of heartbeat or brain activity they normally expect in a living person. Yet a little while later, and to everyone's surprise, signs of life reappear in that patient. So the question is, during the period when that patient had no detectable heartbeat or little to no brain activity standing, right at the doorway of death, what does the person actually see? What do they experience? The experience of coming extremely close to death, or being clinically dead for a short time, is called a near-death experience. N.D., an American doctor and philosopher. Dr. Raymond Moody popularized the term near-death experience. In today's video, I'll discuss the conscious, realistic, and often fascinating things people report when they have ND. My main discussion will be based on Dr. Raymond Moody's famous book, Life After Life. That book has sold over 13 million copies, and in it he researched many NDEs and painted a composite picture from those reports. So in this video I'll try to understand the experiences of people who returned from the very brink of death. At the end I'll try to answer one question. Thousands of people have shared NDEs, and many of them had no detectable heartbeat or brain activity at the time. If those physiological signals weren't present, how could these people have such vivid, conscious experiences? If it's possible, does that mean the brain is not everything? Is there something within us that doesn't end when the body dies? For this discussion, I'll rely on Dr. Raymond Moody's Life After Life and the proof of life after life. And I'll also reference books, websites, and interviews by other near-death. A short disclaimer up front. In this video, we are talking about near-death experiences. People who came very close to dying or who were considered clinically dead but then returned. We are discussing their experiences. I'm not claiming to know whether people who actually die permanently experience the same things. And that topic is not what this video covers. Before describing what NDEs are like, two things should be made clear. First, every person's experience is different. One person's account will never match another's exactly. That's why Dr. Moody, after studying many people's NDEs, highlighted those experiences that recurred most often. The common elements. Second, our language matters. We develop language to discuss everyday things. I'll drink a glass of water, or I am sitting on a chair. We all share those experiences and can convey them easily. But the things people see or feel during NDEs are often things they've never had words for before, or things most of us have never experienced. So they try to describe phenomena our language isn't fully equipped to express. That difficulty keeps coming up in their accounts. Now I'll briefly, in my own words, outline the stages many survivors report. The first step is what I call hearing the news. Many people say they heard a doctor or someone nearby declare them dead, and they heard that announcement. The next stage can be called a feeling of peace and quiet. At this point, they feel a different kind of calm and stillness. One person described it as a great attitude of relief. There was no pain, and I had never felt so relaxed. I was at ease, and it was all good. Others report sounds at this stage. Some heard disturbing noises. Others described it as extraordinary music. After that, many feel themselves being drawn quickly through a dark space. Though people use different words, the common idea is being pulled through an empty, airless cave or tunnel. The next stage is crucial. The out-of-body experience. Here a person perceives their body from the outside, as if they have left their body and can watch their fallen body, the doctors at work, and the events in the room from a distance, like a spectator. Many say the distinct entity that seems to leave the body is indescribable in ordinary language. It's a completely different kind of experience. Dr. Moody, in his later Proof of Life After Life, explains that while the physical body lies unconscious in the operating theater, the separate, conscious entity that has come out of the body, whether you call it a soul or consciousness, can observe what is happening in the room, what the doctors are doing to try to save life. After recovery, many patients have been able to recount in great detail what the doctors did and what happened in the room, even events in adjacent rooms or outside the hospital at that time, details that have stunned some medical staff. At first I found such reports hard to believe, but when I saw that multiple NDE researchers report similar things, I took the matter more seriously. I'll add reference videos at the end so you can judge for yourself. The next step many describe as meeting others. They sense the presence of spiritual or benevolent beings who help ease their journey or who tell them, "It's not your time yet. You must return to your physical body." Each stage has detailed variations and personal descriptions in the research literature. I'm only giving a concise summary here. Then comes the being of light. This is one of the most common and impactful elements of NDE. Critically ill people often report seeing an intensely bright light that grows from a gentle glow into a radiant, otherworldly brightness. Despite how bright it is, the light causes no discomfort to the eyes. Those who have experienced it say, it is not merely a light, but a personality made of light. In the presence of that light, they feel overwhelming love and warmth. The light seems to surround them, and they feel completely embraced and accepted by this luminous being. Soon after, communication begins. Not in the ordinary spoken word sense, but more like direct, automatic knowing. The being understands what the person is thinking. It's a very direct form of communication with no possibility for misunderstanding. Many recount that the being asks something like, "Are you ready to die?" Or "What have you done with your life? Show me?" Surprisingly, people didn't feel judged or threatened by these questions. Whatever their answers, they felt loved and accepted. Those questions prompted deep self-reflection, helping them to see their lives clearly. From there follows the life review. In this stage, a person's entire life seems to unfold before them. The light being ISNT asking for information but is waking the person's mind so they can see what they have done in life. Some people report seeing events one after another very quickly. Others say their whole life appears at once. Regardless of how it's described, nearly everyone agrees that the review happens in an instant, yet is vivid, real, and emotionally rich. They re-experience the feelings tied to those moments. Many describe it as having the opportunity to relive their whole life in a moment. Recently, I listened to a Jordan Peterson podcast featuring Islamic scholar Hamza Yusuf, who described a horrific car accident he survived as a teenager in which he had an NDE and a life review. He later met Dr. Raymond Moody. That experience sparked in him a deep interest in the afterlife and ultimately contributed to his embracing Islam. NDEs are not confined to any single religion, society, culture, or language. For example, actor Jeremy Renner, known for Mission Impossible and Marvel films, suffered a severe accident in 2023 and later wrote about his experience in My Next Breath. He had an NDE, and upon learning other people's NDEs, found striking similarities between his experience and others. This reinforces that NDE reports transcend cultural and religious boundaries. Dr. Jeffrey Lung, an American radiation oncologist, established the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation. His organization has recorded more than 5,000 NDE accounts from around the world in many languages. You can consult their database if you wish. Returning to the central question we began with, most people who report NDEs have no detectable heartbeat or brain activity, or only minimal activity, a TUT state. How, then, could someone at the threshold of death have such real and conscious experiences? Dr. Jeffrey Long noted in an interview that in his research, about 75% of people said the experiences felt more real than ordinary life. They felt more conscious than during typical waking life. So, how is that possible given the physical and brain conditions at the time? Near-death researchers ask whether the brain is everything. Is consciousness entirely dependent on the brain? Does everything end with bodily death? Or might consciousness persist at some higher level if, during the OBE, something actually leaves the physical body and can perceive the operating room? Is that what people mean by soul? Dr. Long and other researchers sometimes use the word soul, though the term makes some scientists uncomfortable because you can't measure a soul with instruments. So they often speak more cautiously. Whatever leaves the body in OBEs seems to be something that doesn't require a physical body to exist. It knows it was associated with a particular body. It has some sense modalities. It can move on its own and is not limited by the body. And it can traverse dimensions in ways our ordinary experience does not permit. In short, some NDE researchers argue that the brain is not the whole story. that there is a self or consciousness that continues beyond bodily death. That idea aligns with the philosophical doctrine of mind-body dualism, and many religious traditions likewise assert a distinction between body and soul. Philosophers from antiquity, Socrates and Plato, spoke of body and soul as distinct, and later René Descartes also advocated dualism. Not everyone accepts dualism. Materialists argue that unseen entities like souls and afterlives have no evidence, and they maintain that everything depends on the brain. Materialists claim physical processes can, in principle, explain all experiences. Skeptics have proposed roughly 30 different alternative explanations for NDE phenomena, but researchers like Dr. Long maintain that no single skeptical account fully captures the totality of the NDE data. One striking modern example is neurosurgeon Dr. Eben Alexander, a highly credentialed physician who once believed consciousness is solely brain-based, experienced a profound NDE that transformed his view. He later wrote the popular book Proof of Heaven. Given his medical background, his case has received tremendous attention because Dr. Alexander himself had experienced an NDE. He later experimented with the psychedelic DMT to compare the experiences. He found some similarities but also important differences, and his conclusion is that DMT experiences and NDEs are not the same. When Dr. Moody published Life After Life in 1975, he did not claim NDEs as definitive proof of an afterlife. But in 2023, after 60 years of interviews, observations, research, personal reflection, and study, he wrote Proof of Life After Life. Based on that long body of work, if you ask him now whether NDEs point to a life after death, his answer is. That said, research into NDEs is expanding and debates between dualists and materialists continue. Over the coming decades, we may learn many more fascinating things. I simply don't know which way the evidence will move. To summarize, today I gave a brief introduction to near-death experiences. If you want more detail, you can read Dr. Raymond Moody's books, Dr. Jeffrey Long's research collections, Dr. Eben Alexander's Proof of Heaven, Dr. Bruce's book After, and other important works. I'll pin links to key podcasts and websites in the description and in the first comment. I know this video won't answer every question. I gave references so you can explore further. In future videos, I plan to do a fuller philosophical discussion of mind-body dualism. Today, I tried to introduce you to this topic from a different angle. Now, I have a question for you. Are you a mind-body dualist or a materialist? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video. Take care.